After a long break, Arcane Season 2 has premiered, and it's probably the most highly anticipated animated series this year.
I'd say it's the most anticipated series, period. That's including animation and live action.
Yeah, I can see that. So what are we thinking about it now that we've seen all 9 episodes in Season 2?
Honestly, this could be really unpopular when I say this, but I was disappointed. This whole second season felt rushed. Like, there were really emotional moments that I wanted to see, but there was no build-up or a rushed build-up to get to those scenes.
Yeah, I see what you're getting at. I think there's been so much anticipation for the second season over the last 3 years because Arcane Season 1 premiered in the fall of 2021. That first season is beloved and highly regarded as one of the most prestigious and groundbreaking achievements in animation. It caught so many people off guard who were not familiar with the world of League of Legends, and it set trends. Like the Spider-Verse movies, Arcane showed what was possible visually and story-wise. So 3 years later, I think there's a huge portion of the fan base that is going to love this second season because of the built-up anticipation. And at the same time, there's going to be fans who don't like it.
But what do you think about this second season?
My feelings are similar to what you experienced. That first part of Season 2, I was taking it slow and assuming the series was building up to a larger story arc that would be explored in parts 2 and 3. I mean, we saw a huge focus on Caitlyn and her turn toward revenge and a hatred for Jinx after the loss of her mother. So that last image in episode 3 with Caitlyn standing regally in front of the crowd was striking. But the time jump in part 2 threw me off. Yes, I think we all wanted to see Jinx, Vi, and Vander somehow reunite, and we see this with a mutated Vander in the form of Warwick meeting the two girls. However, that's where I felt the story started feeling rushed. To bring Jinx and Vi back together so quickly in part 2 felt abrupt, and I can imagine that one could spend a whole season fully exploring that arc and giving it all the dramatic story beats and pacing that it deserves.
You mean devoting one season to just Jinx and Vi finding their way back to each other? Where they start out as enemies and then you have them end up back together again?
Something like that. The ending of Season 1 was so memorable, and we were left with the collapse of Jinx and Vi's sisterly relationship. And it was a huge, big step for Jinx to step out on her own and become a more fully realized person, far from who she was as Powder. So in the current Season 2 Part 2, when I saw Jinx reuniting with Vi after Vi gets knocked out, and I think it was after a montage, that felt really quick, even if we understand that some time has passed via the time jump.
Yeah, I wish we saw this whole relationship arc between Vi and Jinx in Season 2 just get more fleshed out. Like when we got to part 3, I love the Echo episode where we see him in another timeline in a relationship with Powder. But even that felt short. I could have seen at least 3 episodes focusing just on building out that whole storyline of Echo in this other timeline, and eventually finding his way back home.
Well, if you didn't like the rushed feeling of Season 2, then the conclusion of Part 3 is something to consider. The ending fight scene between Mbessa and Caitlyn, and then a resurrected Warwick with Vi and Jinx are the main action set pieces we see in the finale.
But even those scenes, I don't know. I'm just disappointed with how this Season 2 played out.
Maybe a constructive way of looking at the Season 2 is to imagine what could have been. That's a thought experiment we might want to explore later on. That is to take the big story beats that Season 2 was hitting and then exploring how a more fleshed out storyline would look like.
That might take 5 more seasons of Arcane to figure it out.
Well, it's a way to challenge ourselves to grow in storytelling and writing rather than getting hung up on negatives.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I'll think about it. Maybe I just need more time away from this Season 2 and revisit it later on with fresher eyes.